Pete's Rainbow. Pete was fed up, very fed up. While all the other children played in the sunshine, Pete just sat inside staring at the sky. His mummy said, "Go and play outside, it's a lovely day." His granny shook her head. She said, "Why don't you want to go out? It could be raining tomorrow." Pete looked happier. Raining? Tomorrow? That's what he was waiting for. It had all started when his granddad had told him about leprechauns and how they could be found at the end of the rainbow, guarding a crock of gold. If you found them, you could take their gold. Pete wasn't a greedy boy, but he knew that a crock of gold would make a big difference to his family. Mum could have some new clothes and get her hair done at the hairdresser's. Granny could buy some new wool to finish up the jumper she had been knitting for ages. Grandad could have a nice new shed for his garden tools. And Pete, he could have the new computer game that all his friends seemed to have, but Mum had said she couldn't afford it just now. Next morning he woke up. Tip, tip, tap, tip, tip, tap. Pete leapt out of bed and ran to the window. Yippee, it was raining. Soon there would be a rainbow and he would find a leprechaun and claim his crock of gold. He dressed in double quick time and flew down the stairs and out of the front door. Mum shouted, "Pete, stop and have some breakfast." Granny shook her head. "I don't understand that boy. He won't go out in the sunshine, but he's quite happy to go out in the rain." By the time Pete got outside, the summer rain had started to ease and steam rose from the ground as the sun warmed it. Pete was almost too afraid to look up. He raised his eyes slowly skyward. Yes, yes, there it was. A rainbow, a beautiful rainbow. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Now he had no time to lose. He traced the curve of the rainbow with his finger. It seemed to end just in the next street. He crossed the road carefully and began to run along the pavement and through the alleyway. He stopped. The rainbow curved into the back garden of number 52. He slipped through the front gate and tiptoed along the side of the house to the back garden. As he rounded the corner, his eyes were met by a splash of bright colours. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Pete thought this was it, the end of the rainbow. But the colours did not come from a rainbow. They came from a neat row of flowers that filled the garden. Suddenly a window opened and a gruff voice shouted, "What are you doing in my garden?" Pete didn't wait to answer. He had to follow the rainbow. He retraced his steps and was back on the pavement in no time. Now the rainbow had moved over the corner shop. Pete began to run. This time he was sure he would find a leprechaun. As he reached the shop, the sun shone brighter, dazzling him for a moment. Through the glare he could see a rainbow of colours. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Could this be it? But when he shaded his eyes with his hands, he realised that the colours came not from a rainbow, but from the fruit and vegetables laid out in the boxes at the front of the shop. Mr. Brown, the shopkeeper, appeared at the door with another box. "Hi, Pete. You're out early today. What are you up to?" Pete took off again, shouting over his shoulder, "Sorry, Mr. Brown, can't stop. I've got a rainbow to catch." Mr. Brown smiled and shook his head. Pete looked up. The rainbow had moved again. This time it was over the park. Quickly Pete dashed through the park's iron gates and followed the path. But then disaster struck. As Pete ran towards the end of the rainbow, the colours began to fade. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Each one disappeared and the sky was plain once more. Pete refused to believe it. The rainbow couldn't have just disappeared. Maybe if he could see beyond the trees, he might still find it. He had to find some higher ground. He ran towards a mound of earth and scrambled up it, searching the sky in every direction. It was no good. The rainbow had gone. Pete sank down onto the soft earth. If only he had been quicker, he would have found the end of the rainbow. Pete's eyes, that had been trained towards the sky, now looked down sadly at his muddy shoes. Mum would be cross. He kicked at the ground in disappointment. A sparkle in the soil caught his eye. He reached down and cleared away some earth. His fingers touched something hard and cold. Quickly he pushed more soil away with his hands and lifted a strange rainbow-curved piece of metal from the ground. Rubbing it with his sleeve, he was surprised to find that the metal was marked with strange patterns. It reminded him of patterns he had seen in the museum when Grandad had taken him on a day trip to the city. Grandad would know what it was, Pete thought. So he ran home clutching the tiny golden rainbow. The next few weeks went by in a whirl. Pete became quite famous, but best of all, with the money he received, he was able to treat all of his family. Perhaps he had found the end of the rainbow after all.